Well, there we go. As promised, we're joined by friend of the podcast, friend of mine, big, strong Leicester boys host. It's Jake Watson. Jake, lovely to see you again, mate, as it always is. We had to have a year off from you coming on the We Are West Ham podcast. Leicester had a little holiday down in the Championship. You're back. Have you got like holiday blues?
Probably, yeah.
Clever way of saying, do you wish you were still there? But not very clever.
Yes, no, I got it. Yes and no. I miss winning games of football.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it wasn't particularly exciting playing Rotherham et al. So no, it is still the place to be. But it'd be nice if we were doing a little bit better. I won't lie. I'm pretty sure as well, Will, that it was a few years back now, but you got me on this podcast to talk about Norwich once as well. So
yeah, I think so.
You've always got that option. You know, if we swap leagues, which we have a tendency to do, I can still come on the pod. You know, I'm very, very versatile. If you need me to pretend to be a fan of another club, I'm very.
Yeah. I was just trying to for some reason Brighton. We always have a right ball ache to get guests for.
Right. Sorted.
Can you do that? You've been to Brighton before, I imagine. Yeah. Must have been to the Amex. Jake, it's quite nice to talk to someone. I was going to just start this podcast with, hey, we've got someone on who supports a team who are worse than us. You're only just worse than us, to be fair. Yeah. 5 points, to be exact, and 2 places. I believe in the Premier League, your 16th plays our 14th. Me and James have sort of you're slotting in section 3 of 4 on the podcast because it's such a quick turnaround. Me and James, or the irony was not lost on us that James was doing one of his monologues about we've got a 5 or 6 team cushion underneath us, so there's no need to be rash and sack Lopetegui, etc. But then he sort of like dawned on him as he was saying it that 2 of the 5 team cushion we play in the next 2 games, being you and Wolves, and there's every chance that that cushion might get smaller and smaller. You've sacked Steve Cooper already. I follow you closely on social media. For those who don't, what did you feel about that?
It was the right decision. It really was. Surprised that they acted as soon as what they did. Because the club previously have held on to managers for too long, and B, it's just 12 games to allow a new manager to only have that is just not a lot. Do you know what I mean? Even if you were someone who is far more familiar with sacking managers like your Chelseas and your West Hams, even then
leave it out.
Sorry, West Ham's, Watford. Sorry,
right.
Mate. Didn't mean that. That was a slip of the tongue. But you still raise the eyebrows, wouldn't you, after 12 games? But honestly, mate, it wasn't working, and you could have left it another 10 games. You could have waited till we got to 30 games of the season. Given him the January transfer window, and things wouldn't have got better. It is strange though, because within all of this, we still might go down, right? This isn't a situation where we think that we should be mid-table. I think people need to realise that, because, the general response is that, well, where do Leicester expect to be?
Right.
Well, we'd expect to be in and around the bottom 6 or 7, being a newly promoted team. It was just everything around that. And I think that West Ham fans can probably relate a little bit to their situation right now, with obviously you having a new manager as well. Now, don't get me wrong, you are underperforming far more than what we are. But, if West Ham fans turned around to me and everyone else and said, well, look, he's come in and it's just not working. The players aren't liking him. The fans aren't gelling with him. We can't see what he's trying to achieve. And, we can sit here and say, well, give him another 10 games. But if you think you're going to be in the exact same position and there's another manager out there right now who you think can do a better job, who wasn't available when you gave the current manager the job back in the summer, then just act. And that's what we've done. So I'm really happy they've done it. But as I said, this is no guarantee we're going to get better from here. We might not. We're just hoping that the new manager's got more of a plan and more of an identity than the last one, because he didn't. He just didn't.
No, quite. Well, Ruud van Nistelrooy been given the job. We'll get onto him in a minute, Jake. But I think you wrote on Twitter, Jake Watson TV. Is that still your handle? In case anyone wants to follow you.
That, seeing as I'm not reading a lot of TV these days.
yeah. Yes, and I think it was you who wrote on Twitter after he was sacked that you hadn't played. You hadn't put 2 lots of 45 minutes together. Like, I don't know why you've got balloons coming up in your screen.
That all the time when I do this on my own podcast, and I've no idea why. And it happens all the time. And if there's something I'm doing, either with my hands or a word, but obviously you aren't seeing this, but there's, for some reason,
load of cartoon balloons coming up.
Fly across my screen. Sorry, Will, you were saying for those balloons.
If that doesn't make you subscribe to We Are West Ham podcast on YouTube, I don't know what will. Yeah, I think you tweeted that he hadn't played more than like you'd never played well for more than 45 minutes in any game.
No, the only time we played well was when we were losing.
Yeah. This is Steve Cooper, by the way. He's been sacked. If I didn't say that, but yeah.
And I'm no tactical genius. I've never managed a Premier League team before, but the easiest thing to do in the world is tell a team what to do when you're losing, because it's really simple. You need to attack, right? That's your only option. So the only time it looked like the players had a clue about what they were supposed to do was when we were losing. So this was the problem. It was a rinse and repeat of every single game. He'd set the team up defensively, but then the team can't defend. We're absolutely awful. He just put a load of defensive players on the pitch, but which isn't
the same, is it? Yeah,
with some kind of plan of soaking up maybe a bit of pressure, holding on, and then maybe trying to grab something a bit later on. But that game plan goes out the window when you concede after 10 minutes in every game, and then you suddenly start with a load of defensive players on the pitch. So what would happen is we'd go behind. I think it was 11 out of the 12 games we went behind it. So this isn't just a couple of games here and there. It was every single game. And then we would rally in the second half. And then, and by the end, people would say, it was spirited fight back. The players are playing for him. It's not that bad. It was close. And case in point, the Chelsea game, with the last game, everyone said, it was 2-1 to Chelsea. Did you expect to win? I was like, no, but if you watch that game, Chelsea scored 2 goals and just stopped trying. And then we got a penalty at the end. But that was the problem. It was the same thing over and over again. At no point did any good performance materialize, and as I said, it just wasn't worth giving another 5 or so games.
No, and that's the thing. I mean, you'll know Josh Jones, a colleague of mine, big Leicester fan as well, and you can just tell. Obviously, I pay a lot of heed to what you say about Leicester. Same with Josh. You could just tell from people who clearly watch Leicester every week. It didn't feel like anyone, I don't have a big army of Leicester fans that I know, but the few I follow on socials and you and Josh as well, no one was going, that's premature. It seemed like everyone who watches Leicester was just like, that's definitely the right decision. Was there, I always find these sort of things a bit blithe, but was there any sort of hard feelings or aggro because of the Forest connection and how well he did there?
Yes and no. So nobody really cared that it was the former Forest manager, right? Yeah. But there is a couple of things which kind of then contradicts myself here. He got sacked from Nottingham Forest, right? Yeah. So that is one of the weakest teams in the Premier League. So it's not like he's then come to Leicester off the back of doing a really good job. Like he got them promoted from the Championship. I know.
He sort of did do a good job though, didn't he? But then
he didn't. Right, so he came in when they were in the Championship, and they were massively underperforming, and everything was made of the fact that he'd taken them from the relegation zones to the playoffs. Right, there wasn't that much of a gap between the relegation place and the playoff. We see it all the time in the Championship, and even at that point, he had one of the most expensive squads in the Championship. So yes, he did a good job. I don't want to take too much away, but it's not like he performed some miracle where he got Blackpool or Huddersfield, or Luton from the Championship on a shoestring budget. That's not what happened. He then goes to the Premier League. And they signed 20-odd players, and the whole time it was like, this is the owner, this is the owner.
Yeah,
I think the owner plays a large part in that, but I also think Steve Cooper plays a massive part in that as well, because we then saw the exact same thing where we were told in the summer we had no money. Steve Cooper then went and spent £70 million. And then for the last 2 games, not a single one of the signings that he made started a game. So we're playing with the exact same team as what we had last year, but we're worse because we're not being managed by Enzo Maresca. So we've gone backwards after being promoted and spending all that money. So I don't actually think the Nottingham Forest job he did was that good. You know, he built up a connection with the fan base, but it wasn't that good. So we've got a manager, right, who's been sacked by Nottingham Forest. And again, the only reason they really stayed up was because we went down that year and we were absolutely horrific. Like if we were anywhere near where we should have been that year, Forest would have gone down. So he just about keeps them up, then gets sacked the following year, and then he gets the job with us. Now, for most new managers, when you come in, you're excited about a new manager, usually off the back of your manager being sacked, right? Yeah. So all he has to do is get a bit of a reaction out of them. He's got all this credit in the bank, and then maybe over the course of a year, he begins to lose that credit. But it was the flip side for Steve Cooper. He had to come in and win fans over, not because he was necessarily a former Forest manager, but because of the things I've just discussed. We've just lost a manager that's gone to Chelsea who was very good, and then you get a guy who's just been sacked from Forest. So it's like, well, hang about. We've got a worse manager, so like prove us wrong. But he didn't at any point. He just at no point. Okay, you know, this guy might be all right. At no point.
Yeah, it's really interesting that Maresca one. What I know, obviously Fofana went and he gets a bit of grief. He got a bit of grief when he came back and played at Leicester a few weeks ago, didn't he? What's the feeling around Maresca then? Is it kind of like, well, you're not going to turn that down, mate, and he's doing a good job now, so hard pill to swallow, but fair enough because he's clearly a good manager? Or is it a bit? Is there any animosity?
No, we've been pretty accustomed to losing high profile people over the years. You know, where it's your Maguire's, your Mahrez, Chilwell, Fofana, you know, Kante, you know, the list goes on, and you know, those players get a mixed reaction depending on the way that they handled themselves. Fofana will get booed every single time he comes back to Leicester. He went on strike. Yeah, you know, after he broke his leg and we gave him a new 5-year contract to reward him and look after him, and he didn't play a single game after that and went on strike. You know, so he's going to get booed. You know, Ben Chilwell, the same thing. You know, so in West Ham, you would have been there as well. It's all about how the player conducts himself. You know, and with Enzo, it was.
Declan Rice has somehow managed quite a rare feat where he was like too nice about it. So people like, most mate, go away. Like, we'll just be anyway. There's like that fine line, isn't there?
Yeah, no, there is. Like, just, you know, say something afterwards. Be heartfelt about
Don't be gross about it. Yeah.
And then you just move on, you know. But with managers, I suppose it's a little bit different, but because it doesn't get the same level of reaction and response, does it? I don't think you build up the same affinity with managers you do players. With Enzo, again, he was only here 1 year, and it was a season where the bare minimum was promotion. So, you know, he did well. He showed really promising signs, but it's not like he, you know, had made himself some kind of legend and idol and hero and, you know, godlike status. He did build an affinity with us. We did like him. We just about dragged ourselves over the line after a bit of a wobble, didn't we, towards the back end. Yeah. But then within all of this as well, we got 10 million quid for him from Chelsea. And at this point, we thought we were going to get a point deduction. But we thought we were going to get a point deduction. We desperately needed the cash. So we got 10 million quid. And also, it's Chelsea. He's going to go. Yeah, cool. So at the time, it was a little bit of like, okay, well, we've just about got promoted with a bit of a whimper. We get 10 million quid and it's Chelsea. All right, fair enough. See you later. Yeah. I actually think now with what's happened with Steve Cooper, now people are looking back at Enzo a lot more fondly, but he didn't get any kind of negative reaction when we played him the other week. There was nothing. There was nothing. It was pretty underwhelming. So Keenan Dewsbury Hall, did. He got a nice round of applause and response. But with Enzo, I don't think he even came on the pitch. Again, he's just like, he said his goodbye and that's it. We move on. He's the Chelsea manager.
Draw a line under it. Yeah. Fair enough. Just before we talk about the game, I suppose we'll have to do that in a minute. Not as excited about it as you are. Yeah. Ruud van Nistelrooy. Then I mean, on the face of it, it feels to me.
Go on.
Like, but it feels funny. It just feels like one of them classic, like fair play to Ruud, well manoeuvred, like. Little bit of a gig at Man United as the number 2. That's on the CV then. And then I don't know. I'm not really convinced that is a.
Have you looked at the other stuff he's done since he's retired? You know, he's not just done 4 games at Man United, right?
No, I know,
That's what
but
people
it
keep
does
saying it's
just
some kind of risk, or it's some kind of like, well, actually, there's
no.
managers
It
have got
feels
plenty
like
of jobs with a lot less experience than Ruud.
it feels like before I'm not certain Leicester hire him or anyone really before he does the Man United stint. I think that was very much a get me back on people's radar.
Yeah, but he
exercise, and
alluded
you
to
might
that
have
in his press conference today that he was astounded was the word he used with the amount of offers he'd had since leaving Man United, and it's what makes it obviously even funnier is of the 4 games he managed, 2 of them were against us, and we were absolutely horrific. So some people are saying it's a bit of an audition for being our manager, and whether the owner or anyone looked at that and thought, actually, do you know what, he's quite good.
yeah. Well, it just does feel like one of them.
You can listen to our podcast, right? And there'll be an episode before we hired Steve Cooper where a couple of the lads were banging the drum to get Ruud van Nistelrooy in for the job.
Right.
But he was, despite the fact he's only technically 4 games more experienced, deemed at that point too inexperienced. So you're not like completely wrong. I get what you're saying. Yeah. But for people who are unawares, because again, when you do like your first major job as a manager, usually like straight out of retirement, right? Like 35, 36. Like Ruud, well into his 40s. I think he's 45, 46. He's been retired a long time. And during that
48.
time,
48 years.
Exactly. Yeah. Bloke's nearly 50. He's not actually that young of a manager.
No, true.
So post-retirement, he's managed the academy at PSV, which done very, very successfully. He's then managed the first team and won a cup double, and in both of those finals, beating Ajax. The only reason they lost the league was Arne Slot's Feyenoord. So a really, really impressive Feyenoord team. And he would have stayed on there, but clearly there was a fallout behind the scenes. And you speak to people.
What have you got? He sort of got like had to go out of the club, didn't he? So he fell out behind the scenes.
Yeah, fell out with the board. But you speak to PSV fans, and they all speak incredibly highly of him. And then within all of this as well, he's been the assistant manager at the Netherlands for I think with Ronald Koeman and Guus Hiddink. And then he's been with Man United as well. So to be at Netherlands, PSV Eindhoven, and Man United, and then you look at his playing career, it's not like he's going to be overawed or he hasn't. Do you know what I mean? I feel.
I don't know why. I don't know what it is. Say that again.
I don't think it's that much of a risk or a gamble. I've said this previously. What I hate, Will, is, and I mean this with the greatest respect of David Moyes, because David did a really good job with West Ham. But there's obviously a ceiling to his work, right? But
just to let you know, mate, I have had to pledge on this podcast tonight that I'm not going to mention David Moyes or the David Moyes era again until the end of January, because people are literally messaging in going, stop, I'm going to stop listening.
Well, this is me, and apologies if I'm going to say something completely what you think.
I didn't tee Jake up for this.
But what I'm saying managers like David Moyes, right? So managers who have managed
pragmatic.
No. Not even about the style. It's the number of clubs they've managed. Right. This is the point I'm making. If you've managed 4, 5, 6 clubs, and you've been sacked from 3, 4 of them, stay away. Stay away from those managers. It's like, I love a girlfriend metaphor. It's like having and getting a damaged girlfriend. Right.
Right. I mean, awful word, but
no. If she's
damaged, what, like got a leg missing?
No, like ones that have ended really badly. Like obviously, it helps sometimes.
Okay, yeah.
But with a manager, right? If you've been sacked 3, 4, 5 times, what you're going to get then when the manager comes into that next job is you're going to get the exact same manager as the first, second, third, fourth, 5th time, and he's already proven in more than 50% of them that job isn't going to last for more than a year or 2 years, and there's a ceiling to what his work is. So you've got a CV there. You've got a track record of exactly what you're going to get. If you get David Moyes to come into your club, and obviously, look, you can go further back. If you're Sam Allardyce, Roy Hodgson,
yeah.
Do you know what
Don't
I mean?
group them in the same thing, but I get it. Yeah.
If you bring in those managers, that's what you're going to get. You're not going to get anything different from before. So I find it mad when people say, "Oh, it's a safe pair of hands," but it's not safe. David Moyes got sacked after less than a year at Man United. after less than a year at Sociedad, less than a year at Sunderland, and has been let go twice by West Ham. That doesn't feel safe to me. I'd much rather get a guy who is young, ambitious, exciting, got a clear identity and style, who hasn't yet got those damaged qualities of being sacked all those many times. And that's what we've got in Ruud van Nistelrooy.
It does feel a little bit as well. What I quite like about Leicester, and which is why I thought the Steve Cooper appointment was quite odd, is that you seem to, particularly a chairman, and just as a club, you seem to like playing in the right way. Do you know what I mean? Or like, I was even under Brendan Rodgers, you played some like good, exciting football. Title winning season aside, obviously, because that was wild. But I just, when you think Leicester, that's why I thought it was just a bit of an odd fit with Cooper. And I think that's where lots of the frustration among the West Ham fan base comes from, because who the hell knows what we are? Like, we're so lurchy from one thing to the other.
Yeah.
But at least with Leicester, you sort of think, well, all right, it might be that they're operating at that, bottom end of the Premier League, upper end of the Championship level these days. But you're, I don't know, still sort of having a go and trying to play some nice football and play some nice stuff, and having a manager who sort of fits that bill. What do you think you're going to get from Van Nistelrooy then? What can, you said you might still go down, but what can you expect style and performance wise? And you think
just really quickly on the style, I think that was another big problem, was that obviously Enzo has got this really clear identity of playing, and then Steve Cooper is the complete opposite. So the players, that was another big problem, that you're asking a group of players to learn a brand new style, and it was just too much too soon. You needed a rebound girlfriend, Will, in the middle to help that transition. And that's what Steve Cooper would effectively be. It would just be a rebound girlfriend. And now the proper guy comes in and hopefully takes...
So to get over Maresca, you were getting under Steve Cooper, mate.
No, but in a way, that's pretty much how it is. We had similar, after... when we had Claudio Ranieri, we played that certain style, didn't we? You kind of counter-attacking style. We then had in Claude Puel. Now, Claude Puel was never the man for the long term, but what he wasn't afraid to do was go in and ruffle a few feathers, make the transition, and then does all the hard work, and then you sack him, and then you bring in Brendan Rodgers, and then it's all...
Wasn't afraid to come round on a Friday night if you text him at 11:30 after you come back drunk.
So you all need a Claude Puel. You all need a Steve Cooper. But look, Ruud van Nistelrooy, he's spoken about the fact that he wants to play quick, attacking football. He called up Enzo Maresca, their former teammates, when they played at Malaga together. So he called him up and he had a chat about the players. So I think his vision or his style is hopefully similar to that. But the big problem with that,
how big is Leicester's Willie? That sort of thing.
No, I didn't go there.
Goodness me.
Whether we're able to then play that style in the Premier League with the players we've got, that's the big question.
Of course.
As I've touched on, like defensively, we're really, really bad. The thing he needs to do first and foremost is shore us up defensively, but I don't know how he's going to do that, because the personnel we've got just aren't good enough. There's now a couple of injuries there as well, so we've got to somehow get through to January and not be completely kind of morale beaten, and somehow find maybe a little bit of cash to bring in. But I think that's his biggest test, because you're thinking he's going to bring an attacking, fluid style of football, but he needs to shore us up first and foremost, or otherwise we're fucked. Long story short.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, mate. Right, let's talk about the game then. Very briefly, I think. It's A, it's late, and B, I'm not particularly excited about it. Jonesy said earlier on that anything less than 2 wins from Leicester away, Wolves at home is unacceptable. I know, or for Lopetegui, and that he needs to win those two. For me, 2 defeats, he's out. I think they'll probably keep him if we draw twice, but that is vile. I think 4 points would be decent, and I would a bit of a respect the point merchant, as is Jonesy. I think respect the away point merchant. But should we? We're fearing new manager bounce. Should we beat you?
If you'd played as last week, you would have done.
Yeah.
Like, and same with Brentford. Like, no doubt about it. We were going one way. But now you have got a new manager bounce, so I can't predict how high that's going to bounce. You don't know, do you? Because when you've got a dressing room which was apparently really unhappy, well, now they've got no excuses. We'll go on.
Yeah.
You've effectively gone and got the manager sacked because you didn't like him. So come and show us what you've got. But then at the same time, it's have we got the quality to beat you with a bounce or not? And we're missing quite a few players at the moment. They're falling like flies. So in terms of personnel, it's a really quick turnaround from the weekend. So realistically, you're going to have to ask Vardy to go again. He's now 38. We've not got another striking option. This is the thing again that we won't get into today, but our recruitment's been horrific. As I said, the team's weaker now than what it was last season, and we spent a load of money.
Spent 70 million quid on it.
We've still only got one striker. Like how can you do that? How can you let Vardy play every minute of every game when he's that old? Saying we've got injuries, so I don't even know if I'm particularly hopeful for the game. I'm not. But realistically, I know what Jones.
We are bad though, mate. Don't underestimate how bad we are.
If you want to have a bad off, mate, just look at right. You're going to lose this bad off. I hear what Jonesy's saying, but this is what's interesting, because this is why I'm kind of sitting on the fence a little bit, is because for both of us, it's a game we will identify as a winnable fixture. And had you not beaten Newcastle the other week, and had Leicester held on a bit longer with Cooper, this probably would have been whoever loses this game is going to get sacked. Now, whether that's changed now because you won that game at Newcastle, I don't know. That's obviously more of a thing for you guys to answer. But looking at the league table, I think it's a 6-team league, and you're not in that, in the sense of you'll be fine. It's just about whether you guys can see improvements being made and whether it's worthwhile sticking with whatever it is he's trying to achieve. But I don't think you get pulled into it personally.
We'll come bottom of the 14-team league, definitely.
And you might well do. You might well do this season. And I said that it's about then whether you think it's worthwhile, following that through.
Even as you were describing about those sort of safe pair of hands managers or whatever you called them, nothing about the Lopetegui appointment was inspiring for me whatsoever. So I don't know. It's sort of hard to gauge.
There'll be an
manager. Everyone will be up for it, and I think the Arsenal game really took a big old chunk out of our morale, the players' morale, and the sense of feeling around the club.
Ours was the same. We lost badly as well at the weekend, and as I said, I think for us now, it's defensively. The issues we have now defensively are becoming. We've been talking about all season as fans, right? Because we could see that personnel-wise, it doesn't matter if you play 5 of them. It doesn't matter what combinations you use, just they're not good enough. It's that again, it's the same defenders as when we got relegated, right? It's mad. Like we got relegated with that team and thought, I don't know, they'll be good enough this time. We'll buy another defensive midfielder because we've only got 6. Do you know what I mean? We won't bother with a striker because we've got this 38-year-old who was. Anyway,
he'll be all right for another couple of years.
The problem now is that you can now see on the pitch that they're aware, like confidence-wise, it's a big issue. All you need to do is just go through the right-hand channel between Wout Faes and James Justin, and you've got a chance. If we didn't have a goalkeeper as good as what we've got in Mads Hermansen, who's been brilliant, we'd be in the relegation zone, and our goals against would be probably double. Defensively, we're so bad. So if you're on it,
we're quite rubbish going forward, though. I don't want to keep the bad off going, but
So if you're on it attacking wise, I mean, it's an absolute shoe-in for both teams to score over 3.5 goals. That's what it feels like to me. So it's just about who's the worst defensively on the night. So here we go.
All you need to do is play really basic, direct, straight passes through the middle of midfield, and we'll just nice. Wave them through. To Vardy. But listen, Jake's absolutely great to talk to you again, mate. Lovely to have you back on the We Are West Ham podcast. We'll have you in as an imposter next season if Leicester do go down, or perhaps we'll be talking on a podcast in the Championship. Who knows? Leicester City, Jake Watson there, that was from the Big Strong Leicester Boys podcast. They're churning out some very good content week in, week out. So if you fancy a little listen to the other side of the coin ahead of that Leicester game, as well as this podcast, and go and listen To the boys over there, that was Jake Watson. West Ham v Leicester Tuesday night. Sorry, 8:15 kickoff. Very weird at the King Power Stadium.